let's spill some tea. I'm only kidding, I am way too tired for tea. There is no tea in this video, only books and biscuits, because we basic here. Hi guys, it's Leanne and it is finally time for a Stack It TBR. If you're new here, Stack It is a game that I created for myself to help me shop my own shelves and get through some of my backlist titles that keep getting bumped for all the brand new shinies on my list. It's also a way to make me read one book at a time from the start to the finish, because I am by nature a multiple book reader. If you give me a stack, I am going to read 5 of them. Like at once. 5. And I thought, what more appropriate a time than non-fiction November for not doing that. Let's not confuse dates and names and places and actual facts. Let's not confuse the facts. The rules of Stack It are simple. I make a stack of books. It's completely my choice what order they go in. But I only get one choice, because once they're in that order, I have to read from the top to the bottom of the stack. If I want to skip a book, I have to make the choice to either try it and DNF it or just unhaul it, because chances are, if I don't want to read it right now, I'm never going to want to read it. Also, in case you're new to, BookTube or me or Nonfiction November in general, it is a challenge readathon run by the lovely Olive and Gemma, and they are challenging everybody to read a little bit more non-fiction in November. So if you read 1, maybe read 2. If you read 3, maybe, I don't know, go crazy and read 5. I've decided to read more than that, because it's been a while since I've been able to have time to read, and so I don't know, I thought just let's rip a hole in it and do it all now, all of it, all of the books. So the first book that I am going to be reading for Nonfiction November is Battle Scars by Jason Fox. I mentioned in my last video, which was a book haul, that I picked this up off the back of watching a wonderful series called SAS Who Dares Wins, in which 4 ex-SAS or elite servicemen take a crowd of the British public who have applied because they're masochists to be on the show, and they take them through SAS selection. Jason, or Foxy, is one of the guys who runs the show, and he has had a really interesting life. He essentially was an elite serviceman for very, very many years. He was at the top of his game, and then out of nowhere he developed an anxiety disorder, a really crippling panic disorder, which proceeded to wreck his entire life. And because in that environment, men especially are not encouraged to talk about their feelings. If you are an elite serviceman who is literally relying on the other 4 people in your team to stay alive, you don't want to think that one of those team members might be suffering from an anxiety disorder or depression or doubts in any way. And so he had no outlet for that, and he had to suffer in silence for a really long time, and it eventually led to his discharge. And this is his memoir about that experience, about the way that this panic disorder kicked in. I have already started this one. I am listening to it on audiobook. It is extremely poignant because I recognise a lot of my own panic disorder in Foxy's. The way that it manifested and the way that he experiences it is a lot of the way that I experience it, and I've never been to a war zone, so it's really interesting that 2 people with such completely disparate experiences in their life can share the same feeling of panic. And so yeah, that one, it's going really well. It's super painful. Yeah, super painful. Let's move on. I don't know about spilling tea, but I do like to drink it. Yes, yes. Book number 2 on this list has been on my shelves for a really long time, and I have read chunks of it. I've read chunks of it, but I've never got all the way through, and it's not because of the book, it's always because of me. It's always because, I don't know, I was reading a book for the podcast and I had to read that first, or some other arbitrary thing that ended up with this at the bottom of my stack. And no more! because it's so good and I want to get all the way through. And that book is The Fact of a Body. So Alexandria Marzano-Leshnovich was a law student in, I believe, her final year. And as one of the last things that she was doing for her degree, she went to work with death row inmates. Specifically, she was working with an organisation that wanted to reduce death penalty to life imprisonment, that doesn't believe in the death penalty. At the time, Alexandria also did not believe in the death penalty. And then on her very first day there, she was played a confession tape from a murderer who had murdered a very small child, and it spiralled her and her thinking and her views in completely the opposite direction. So The Fact of a Body is kind of a book about three things. It's about Alexandria herself, her family, how she came to hold the views that she does. It is about the murder that she was introduced to on that very first day and her investigation into it, and it is also about her ideas and her investigations surrounding the death penalty, why we still use it, when it's appropriate, if it's always appropriate, why she now believes in it. The start of this book is just, I have, as I say, I've read chunks of it and I always make sure and go back and read from the start, even though I could easily pick it up from where I've left off, because the first scenes in this are just so poignant. When she has played that tape and when she experiences this switch in her brain where she starts to question things, it's just, it's so good. It's so good. And I honestly think if you love any kind of true crime, or if you've read anything like Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson and you're interested in social justice and the way in which we apply things like the death penalty, this book is definitely for you, and I ain't even finished it yet. The next two books that I have on my stack are also books that I have started previously and have not finished for various reasons, and so I'm very glad to be picking them up again, because especially with this next one, I feel like I gave myself short shrift and I didn't really believe in myself enough to finish it. I'll explain. Book 3 on my list is The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. The Argonauts is Maggie Nelson's memoir about essentially coming to terms with her own sexuality, especially in the last kind of 10 years when the world has been really rapidly changing and things that have been in the shadows for a long time are now becoming far more mainstream. And this memoir really revolves around her meeting and falling in love with and beginning a family with her partner Harry Dodge, who is fluidly gendered. The reason that I say that I've given myself short shrift with this one is because I really love Maggie Nelson's writing. I love how sardonic and kind of quietly twisted she is, and I love how she frames things in such a way that you'll look at an everyday concept that you've never really thought very much about, and suddenly it's like, whoa, okay, maybe I need to be investigating how I feel about this subject. She does that so very well. However, the beginning of The Argonauts is extremely literary. And by that I don't mean it's purple prose or that it is using like lofty language or that you need a thesaurus to get your way through it. What I mean is that she frames a lot of her early points in this memoir through both literary criticism and social criticism, and also through some really obscure child psychology. And so a lot of this early book, I would say maybe even the first 30 pages of this book, are very much framed that way, and it can take a lot to take it in. And I say this as somebody who studied as an adult literature and literary criticism and spent like 5 years of my life with literary criticism. Even I found it quite difficult to switch gears in my brain. I am glad to say that in preparation for Nonfiction November last month, I picked this up again and I read those first 40 pages over again, and I'm fully into it now and fully prepared to just dive back in there and finish it, because what I have read I just really enjoyed. Book 4 on my stack at TBR is also a book that I mentioned in my last video, my first part of my big cumulative book haul, and that is Confessions of a Sociopath by M.E. Thomas. I picked this one up while my lovely wife Helen was in the hospital, and I had run out of juice on all my mobile devices and I needed something, and this was the first thing in the gift shop that I went, oh, I see that, I will have that. And I started reading it while she was in the hospital, and so my experience of the beginning of this book is really bitty, because I would be reading a bit and then she would like wake up and we would talk for a while, and then I would read a bit and then there would be a doctor or a nurse and then I would read a bit, and so my experience of this is really broken and I kind of just want to start it again. M.E. Thomas considers herself to be a high-functioning, non-criminal sociopath. She believes that she and other individuals live in the world face to face with us every day in completely flagrant sociopathy, and are quite happy that way in their own way, I guess, in as much as they can be happy when they don't understand emotions. And she believes that the reason that we don't talk about this, or that it's not more accepted, is because of the way that society is structured, whereby you should always be kind and empathic to everybody, and she essentially thinks that that's a load of crap and you don't have to be that way. And she explores how she came to her diagnosis and how she's become the successful individual that she has whilst living this lifestyle, and also sort of the facts of sociopathy and psychopathy in our society. That's my next one. That is, what's that, book number 4? That's number 4. Aww. Nummy tea. Very much like tea, the next book that I have is a warming delight on this list of like frigidly cold subjects which are just going to creep around in my brain for a long time. I don't know why I do it to myself. This is 100 Nasty Women of History by Hannah Jewell, and it is kind of the tongue-in-cheek, very much more adult version of things like Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, where we look at some potted histories of some women who we really should have known about, because some of their ideas and inventions and their movements are things that affect us in our present day and are things that we have in our homes and have changed the way we speak. Words like bittersweet, that phrase was created by a woman, but we don't know about those women because, let's face it, history books were written by terrifically averaged, cisgendered, white, middle-aged men. And so all of these rockin' queer women, women of colour, women of all ages, shapes and sizes, all different backgrounds, have been hidden from us for years, and Hannah does not take any prisoners in this. But it doesn't feel like a history in terms of, it's not like picking up a brick of a book on one woman from history and looking at every single detail. It very much is very short 3 or 4 page potted histories, and I love that Hannah's style includes an old people's glossary at the back for words like lol and shooketh, so that should give you an idea what the kind of writing is that you will find in here. And honestly, I've read maybe like 10 of them aloud to Helen, and at this point, lovely wife Helen and I are just going to consume the rest of this because it's amazing. Such a good book, and it's going to be a great break in the middle of the stack. The next book that I have on this TBR, book number 6, is set very much at position number 6, because if I put it any lower down my TBR, I might not get to it, and I really want to force myself to pick this book back up, because this book and I have history. Allow me to explain. This book is Sunshine State by Sarah Gerard, and this is a sort of memoir / non-fiction series of essays about Sarah Gerard's life growing up in Florida State. Now, the issue that I have with this book is not the issue that you will traditionally find other people having with this book. I have seen this on a lot of people's TBRs quite a few years in a row for Nonfiction November, and I see the same problem with it over and over and over again, and it's exactly what I've been preaching ad nauseum about thrillers and about crime novels, is that what is on the cover and what is on the blurb very much does not reflect the contents of this book. If you look at the cover of this book and at the blurb and at any of the quotes that are on the back, it very much leads you to believe that this book is about the flora and fauna of Florida and how the social landscape has been carved and changed by the natural landscape and how one affects the other, and it is very much not about that. There is one essay in here which I can say absolutely refers to that topic, but there's one out of maybe like 15 essays in here that's about that, and everybody sort of picks this book up and goes, that wasn't what I was looking for. And it's a shame, because I think if it had been marketed properly, there's a good chance that the people who picked this book up would be the right audience for it and they would love it. Personally, now that I'm off my soapbox, maybe I did spill a little bit of tea there. Personally, my issue with this book is that the first essay in it is about Sarah Gerard and the idea of falling in love with and being close to and valuing a best friend and then losing them. And that's something that I very much have gone through in my life. I'm sure a lot of us have. And it really hurt me. It really hurt me a lot when I read it, because it was so true and so brutally honest and so accurate to my experience that it kind of made me go, I don't know if I want to read the rest of this if she's going to dig that far into my psyche. Like, I feel personally attacked. And that's the reason that I haven't picked this book back up, because that first essay was so confronting that is it going to be another like Sarah Anderson situation here? Do you have CCTV cameras in my house? Are you looking into my soul? I would really prefer if you didn't. I don't like it in there. Book number 7 on this stack. I have been smart. Can I have praise now? Usually what I do is I forget to account for audiobooks, and then I have to read my stack plus the audiobooks I want to read for this month. But I've been trying to be a little bit smarter and give myself a better chance to actually finish a whole stack, which, can I just say, I've only done once, I think, since I've done Stack It. I've only ever finished a whole stack once. So the next book that I have picked and the next audiobook that I'm going to be listening to is this one. This is Brutally Honest by Melanie Brown. I had absolutely no desire to pick this book up whatsoever. I, like every other little girl who grew up in the 90s, grew up with Spice Girl power, and at the time it was great for me, but I've moved on with my life. And although, as many of us are, I am a bit of a 90s nostalgic, Spice Girls has never been something that I missed. Bands in general are not something that I miss, and I have serious cringe factor when these bands get back together. And I think what it was that I was always missing the person behind the PR. I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion. Lots of Spice Girl fans out there very much believed that they were getting the true truth of what was in these girls' souls through their songs and, you know, through their friendships and stuff, and what was portrayed in the media. But that was very much not the case. There have been eating disorders, there's been arguments and splits, there's been slandering each other in the newspaper, there's been so much stuff. And in amongst it all, there has been Melanie Brown, who was suffering from a relationship filled with coercive control too, in fact, really, when she looked back at her life, and nobody saw it and nobody helped. So I am very much somebody who believes that a lot of those bands in the 90s had a lot of toxicity around them that just we weren't necessarily getting. And when I looked at this, I ran a mile in the other direction. And then lovely wife Helen read it, and she said it's honestly one of the best memoirs she has ever read. It's not actually narrated by Melanie all the way through, I should point out, in case you guys are like, give me it, and you're Spice Girls fans. Because from what lovely wife Helen has said, she is very badly dyslexic, and the idea of reading a thing into a microphone and just standing and reading was terrifying, and so she ended up getting a voice actress to do the book for her. But apparently after, you know, you've got a chapter and you just forget, and so I'm looking really forward to this one, believe it or not. Not entirely sure why, but I'm looking really forward to it, and I will report back. The next 2 books that I have on my list are books that I don't think I'm going to get to, but just in case some of this stack turns out to be easy wins and I rush through it because I'm finally getting time to read again, and it's like you have released 8-year-old me in a sweetie shop and said, choose anything you want, you can have everything. So I've decided to put them on the list just in case I do get a chance to get to them. And if not, I may just include them in next month because they're burning in the back of my brain. And the first one is Diary of a Lone Twin by David Loftus. Can I just say this is a really satisfying book to hold? Like, it's a really weirdly square naked hardback, and it's just but it's very, I don't know, it's very satisfying. I like it. It's also kind of brick shaped, so I can maybe like use it as a weapon. If anybody interrupts me when I'm reading it, just saying. Anyhow, this one is about David Loftus's experience of being a twin and losing his twin brother. His twin brother, who he believed was more accomplished, was kinder, was nicer, was more worthy of being alive than he is, and trying to reconcile his identity as a twin without the part that kind of defined him, without his other half. And he is actually a photographer, and so this book is entirely peppered with photographs, and it is mostly his diaries, and it is mostly actually written in diary entries and fragments of his experience losing his brother and beyond, and sort of how he has come to view himself and how other people have come to view him too, because of course when you go into the world as a twin and then you are then a singleton, you're not necessarily going to be thought of as a singleton, you're going to be thought of as that person who used to be a twin. So the last book on this list, number 9, is one I've had for a really long time, and just, I don't know, I am really excited for it, but I just keep forgetting to pick it up. It's always there and I just keep walking past it in favour of other things, and I really shouldn't, because things like this and the information in it could get dated really quickly, let's be perfectly honest. So this is Bonk by Mary Roach. This is Mary Roach's book about sex, about what sex is, why we have it, why we need it, about fetishes, about things that it has caused us to do, and about sex not just in our species but across other species. And so I'm really interested. And like I say, this was published in, let's see, 2008, so it's, you know, it's over 10 years old at this point. So there are going to be facts in this that are now kind of outdated ideas, or where we have more data on things, or people just have become more open to concepts. And so I don't really want to leave it any longer before I read this, because I'm pretty sure Mary Roach, being Mary Roach, is going to be bringing out an updated version of this any day now. That's it. That is my stack for Nonfiction November, plus like 2. Imagine there's 2 more on top. That's my stack. So I'm hoping that this TBR is thoroughly satisfying for both me and for you. So as always, if you have read any of the books on my stack it, or if you are planning to pick them up, please let me know, especially if I've convinced you to pick them up, because then I can be like, today is a successful, accomplished tick over it. I've made somebody spend their disposable income on books. Please only spend your disposable income. Don't spend any serious money on books. I don't want to be responsible for that. And I shall speak to you guys very soon. Bye! I had never really looked at the illustrations on this book. I don't know whether that makes me want to read it in public more or less.